everybody, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Wendy Lee, and this is the daily show where we bring you the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight to what it all means. Leading off the show today is Perri Nemiroff.
Hello guys, happy Friday. So excited to be here today. You know what we've got on the lineup for you today? We have a very healthy mix of stories that we've talked about time and time again, and then also a bunch of new projects we're going to tell you about. So let's get to it. Wendy, who's joining me today?
Well, we got some fresh faces today from Cinefix T.
Hi everyone, nice to be here.
And our very own red shirt guy, John Rocha.
Yeah, red shirt guy. This is my new Jamie Lannister shirt. Look at this thing. Yeah, I'm ready. I saw the Game of Thrones trailer, right, that came out, right? Fire, fire emoji, ice, ice emoji. There we go. All right, I'm good.
And we're talking about undies today with David Griffin.
Yeah, if you guys need any underwear advice, I'm your man. Go to meundies.com and pick up some underwear. I'm not sponsored by them, but it's a solid recommendation.
He believes in the product.
All right, Wendy, let's hit our very first story, which I believe is not on the sidebar. Something new broke, in addition to a story we've been covering for quite a few days at this point. So run us through the new details here.
In a report from StarWarsNews.net.com, young Han Solo himself, Alden Ehrenreich, was one of the first to bring up concerns to producers that the Han Solo movie was heading off course. As reported by multiple outlets, Lord and Miller's loose approach on the set started to change the story and tone of the movie. It was Ehrenreich who then started to worry about the screwball comedy angle and felt that it was interfering with the character of Han Solo. A source for StarWarsNews.net.com described it as being oddly comparable to Jim Carrey's performance in Ace Ventura at times. Ehrenreich let his concerns be known, and Kennedy and company looked it over existing footage. Lucasfilm then wanted to handle reshoots their way, with Lord and Miller wanting to do it themselves. Because of his breakdown, Lucasfilm then parted ways with the directing duo in order to take on the monumental task of fixing the movie in reshoots. Perry, thoughts on the reports of Alden Ehrenreich bringing in his own concerns of two producers over to the young Han Solo movie?
So before we start dissecting this whole thing, because it is well worth talking about, I just want to point out that there's a lot of stories, a lot of quotes going around right now. Everybody has a source. We trust sources. Sometimes we don't. But really, given how this conversation has progressed over the past couple of days, don't take any of these quotes to heart too much, because really the truth of the matter is nobody really knows every little detail about what went on behind closed doors. We've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. It's not a type of situation that you could really sugarcoat. To have the directors removed with 3 weeks left of principal photography is a big deal, and it's a big deal that it would involve someone in charge like Kathleen Kennedy. I do somewhat doubt that so many sources could have been in the know to the degree that we could get really concrete quotes where we can fully understand exactly what happened here. But, you know, we do need to look at the reports that are out and consider what that might mean for the film going forward, because if these are to be believed, the fact that it was Alden Ehrenreich, of all people, that, you know, I didn't read it as though he walked into Kathleen Kennedy's office and he's like, hey, Kathy, like, this is what I think, and we need to change it because I'm, like, big and in charge here. That's probably not how this played out. It seems to me that he probably mentioned it to another producer, and it kind of went up the chain, which makes a little bit of sense, but that also then forces us to backtrack on just about everything that we had talked about yesterday, because the way that a lot of those quotes presented the story, you know, it kind of put Kathleen Kennedy in a not-so-great light. And just scrolling through Twitter, it just seemed like, you know, if we're in a situation where we have to take sides, the large majority were not on her side. They were on Lord and Miller's side. And even me, personally, I said some things yesterday where it was like I didn't understand how Kennedy and Kasdan didn't see this coming earlier on. So something seemed like it was a little messy there that shouldn't have been. However, now hearing some of this, if I'm going to take it as fact, I can kind of understand how something like this would happen, and it is alarming that the actor of all people is the one who felt the need to bring it to their attention. And I love Ace Ventura to death. I do not want to hear that name anywhere near the Star Wars film franchise or the Han Solo character in particular. There really is a lot to unpack here. But David, first, let's just start with the fact that it could have been Alden Ehrenreich who kind of got the ball rolling with what we were left with the other day. So what are you thinking about this?
I mean, it makes sense, because if you're going to have somebody that is going to complain, it's the lead actor. He's the one that's going to be in most of the scenes. So it makes sense that he's going to be the one that they're going to listen to the most, because he's the one day after day doing. If they're doing a lot of improv, he's the one that's going to be improving. And you don't want it to be silly. He's worried that this silliness is taken away from the character that's Han Solo, if the reports are to be believed. And I feel like if we're looking at what happened, 3 weeks left of principal photography, like you said, Perri, kind of fits the facts. There's something like this probably did happen, and I get it. Like, he takes it seriously. He wants his character as Han Solo to be taken seriously, and if he's just kind of spitballing and goofing around, I mean, that works with some movies. Ace Ventura, it worked. Jim Carrey's hilarious. It's one of the silliest films of all time, and it works. But with Han Solo, you want it to be taken serious. This new Star Wars universe is fun, but it's also serious. You know, it's a kind of a different level. So I hope that Ron Howard, who we got a dog back there.
Yeah, we do.
Ron Howard is a veteran. You know, he did, what did he do, John? He did Drive a few years ago. Remember with Chris Hemsworth? Rush.
Yes.
He's a veteran director. Apollo 13, of course, all those great films.
Yep.
I trust him to come in here and kind of stabilize the situation. I think he can handle it.
So, Rocha, we've talked about this quite a bit. How are you feeling today versus, well, yesterday?
Well, my thing is this feels very much like a star player getting a coach fired. Like, this Magic Johnson did this to Paul Westhead back in the 80s. And so this just happened, you know, and it makes sense because, like you said, David, he's the lead actor. He's going to be the one carrying Han Solo. When Lord and Miller maybe don't want to come back for a sequel, or Kathleen Kennedy wants to hire a new director, he's got to bring the legacy of Han Solo to life. Maybe he worked really intensely with Lawrence Kasdan, who was on the original trilogy, to really create and bring to life this version of Han Solo through his own talents. So maybe he talked to a producer, or maybe he went above their head and was like, I can't seem to get through Lord and Miller. I don't like this kind of Christopher Guest improving on the fly type stuff. It's not my jam. I need to find a way out of this situation, or some resolution here. So I'm not surprised that he took. I'm not surprised he took the steps. I am surprised that he felt he had the clout to do so. So that speaks to his kind of confidence in what he's trying to do with this character. But I think it's a dangerous precedent for them to set with these filmmakers. If you look at the Josh Trank situation, if you look at the Gareth Edwards situation with those massive reshoots, and then if you look at this situation, it's telling you they want up-and-coming film directors to come in who have made their bones on smaller films to come in and try to do Star Wars films. But you're going to have to deal with this overlord situation where like everything is being managed to fit within a tone and a style. These reshoots on Rogue One, I would love to have seen Rogue One before the reshoots, and if it was this darker, kind of edgier type of Rogue One rather than what we got with Jyn Erso, which a lot of people said felt was a bit like half and half of what we presented originally in the trailers and what we got in the final product. So to me, I think this sends a very difficult message. Was it a smart move business-wise? Probably, and Ron Howard, you're right, is going to step in and do a nice job. And he has and this is interesting too, because Ron Howard has this incredible connection with George Lucas. He directed him in American Graffiti. He did Willow for him, which Lucas produced. So did they reach out to Lucas? Did they say, we need someone to step in who understands the lore? Did they go through Kasdan, like, who would you recommend? And Ron Howard is the name that came up. So it's interesting. Is this Lucas's way of kind of indirectly putting his fingerprints on a character from his original trilogy? So it just says you can be, I think it sends the message you can be creative, but you're going to have to adhere to our business model, and that's a dangerous thing artistically.
That's an interesting take. Lucas's name is pretty much one of the only names in the Star Wars world that I haven't heard associated with all this.
It just makes sense.
I mean, you connect the dots one way or the other, and again, it just goes to show we don't have all the concrete details. So, T, we haven't talked about this at all.
Right.
I mean, just from the beginning and where we wound up now, are you raising every red flag you got with this project?
Well, it's really interesting to me because with Ehrenreich being supposedly, according to StarWarsNewsNet.com, which, I personally trust StarWarsNewsNet.biz a lot more, but that's just my preferred source. In any event, I think Ehrenreich, like him supposedly, allegedly being the one to raise his concerns, I can completely understand that and see that being plausible, because ultimately, if this movie turned out being like Ace Ventura Han Solo, that is going to ruin his career. And he cannot have that, just on a personal level, as well as for protecting the franchise. Star Wars is a brand, just the same way that the MCU is a brand, and you can't go off brand. I think these studios think that they want to break with form a little bit when they bring on Lord and Miller, and pre-MCU, Edgar Wright was supposed to do Ant-Man.
Right.
But when the time came, their brand was firmly cemented, and they're like, actually, you know what, just kidding. We need to make sure we maintain our brand. And I think that's what's happening here. So they made sure that it's pretty close to the end with only a few weeks left of Principal, but I think that they are going to probably have reshoots in addition to the end of Principal. And I think that Ron Howard is very much in line with who they would want to replace someone like Lord and Miller.
All right, you definitely bring up a great point. And the other day I was getting all nervous about them eliminating new up-and-coming directors with distinct styles, but the brand is important, and it is very important to someone like Ehrenreich, who, even though should the Han Solo movie had come out as a Lord and Miller film and it not been what all the Star Wars fans wanted, Lord and Miller would have been in big trouble, but he is the face. Yeah. He is the character, and he would have gotten a lot of that would have been put on his shoulders. So I guess he's in a position where he doesn't really have a choice but to speak up.
You know, quick, Perri, I was going to say, I know you follow the press junkets closely, but the difference between this and with Gareth Edwards is, well, one, Gareth Edwards wasn't fired, and two, every time Gareth Edwards asked a question about, how are the reshoots, what was going on, he's like, oh, no, Disney's been great. Like, he was playing ball 100%, like, because he wants a job. He wants to work again. Yeah.
Like those paychecks, right?
The way they presented it in this article is they said Gareth Edwards was a team player, whereas Lord and Miller have given off the impression that they were pretty rebellious with this production, which, you know, it's one thing to do what's true to your style, but it's another to stay true to the brand. So I think that's kind of the situation we're in right now.
And I think it's dangerous to paint it in a choosing sides, which I didn't like was happening either. People going against Kathleen Kennedy or going against Lord. None of you guys sitting out there behind your computers have a franchise on your shoulders. So you don't know what it's like. You don't know the machinations, the board, all these executives you got to answer to. You don't know what it's like to be in this position. So this is a relationship, and a relationship fell apart. You can choose sides because you know the girl or you know the guy or whatever it is, but sometimes things just don't work out, and no one's the bad guy here. Lord Miller probably pushed against them. Kathleen Kennedy wanted something different. It got dangerous, and so it just stopped. So sometimes it's better to break up than to stay together, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of ways, it's like these studios they're letting you park their car. You're the valet. You know what I mean? And they want a very, very good valet, but they don't want someone joyriding.
Right.
It's their money, yeah.
It's their Ferris Bueller thing. Yeah, right.
All right. Well, that's the end of the Han Solo conversation for
Until next
now.
time.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, do keep in mind, don't take any of these quotes to heart too much. You know, it's a very fluid process. There's a lot of people, a lot of very talented people in play, and we just got to trust in the people in charge. I mean, I most certainly do. So I still have very high hopes for the film. Wendy, what's the first story on the sidebar today?
Michael Bay recently came out saying that Transformers: The Last Knight would be his last Transformers movie behind the camera as director. Not so fast, says Mark Wahlberg. In an interview promoting The Last Knight with comicbook.com, Wahlberg told the outlet he believes there's more Bayhem left in the director. Wahlberg said, right now he says he doesn't want to do another film, and he says that after every film, because they're so difficult to make and he pretty much has to do it single-handedly, even with all the help he has, because all of the movie is in his mind. So he'll decide that, and I would be hard-pressed to see him walk away and put it in someone else's control and care. I mean, that's just the Michael that I know, but you never know. Sometimes people decide to move on, so we'll see what happens. Rocha, do you actually believe, like Wahlberg, that Michael Bay may return for another Transformers?
Well, I believe that Wahlberg is right here. I do think that if the movie makes money, or if it feels like it is being unfairly criticized, destroyed in the press, I'm looking at you, Perri, then it's not out of the realm of possibility that he might want to come back and leave a better installment for this series. But it's also possible that if this one doesn't track well, and it doesn't seem like it's tracking well domestically, if it doesn't track well internationally as well, that they remove him from the property just as a kind of a mutual decision, so to speak, for PR sakes. Give him a break for a little while, have someone else step in, direct a couple of these movies, and then make a big deal about him coming back to direct the property. Michael Bay is a young dude in terms of filmmaking, so he's got time to go and do other things, and he's shown that he can do other movies that are fantastic. 13 Hours, I will defend that film forever. I think that's a fantastic film that he did. So it shows you he can do great work with story when he has the right story, and action is never an issue with him. And I sometimes don't believe this stuff, because once you walk away from a project that takes that much of your energy, like Wahlberg said, it was all in his mind, which kind of scares me a little bit, but like, because I would like to think other people are involved here, you know. But, you know, when you walk away from something that takes so much out of you, like we see with Daniel Day-Lewis retiring, Daniel Craig does this after almost every Bond, the last two Bonds, and then, of course, Chris Evans was saying this stuff after Captain America. Once the contract runs out, I'm not going to come back. So it takes a lot out of you, but once you get some distance, you kind of detox, you go relax, you go travel Europe, whatever you need to, then you come back, and you're like, okay, now I'm refreshed, I'm ready, I can tackle it again. Because once you're out of a workout, you don't want to step back in and work out again. You want to take some time, rest for 24 hours, and go back and try it again. So I think that's probably what's happening here. So I'm worried that it's not tracking well. So it may be the reason he doesn't come back. But I think in the long run, eventually he will do a Transformers film, whether it's a spin-off or this particular main franchise of films, possibly.
I definitely don't think anybody but Michael Bay is making a decision as to whether or not Michael Bay continues. There is no one forcing him out of this franchise. This is his thing. He can keep making these movies as long as he wants. I have had enough of these quotes, though, because this will have been, the third time he said, I'm done, and now he's going to come back again. And, these are just casual quotes. There's no confirmation that he's coming back to direct another movie. But, I mean, really, when you say it twice and then go back on your word, what else are you supposed to think? And especially because the last situation was that they assembled that writer's room. They came up with 2 cool ideas, and he's like, well, I want those, and to smush them together and make this big, crazy movie all on my own. And that's what he did. So even though we have Travis Knight directing the Bumblebee spinoff, I really wouldn't be surprised if another Transformers movie came out and Bay said, well, I'm going to do that one again, which I think would be disappointing just because 13 Hours it's a great movie. Pain and Gain, I like that quite a bit. And he's got a whole ton of other films on his resume that aren't Transformers movies that are hugely so beyond any Transformers movie from him. Not the first one. I do love the first one, but any of the other Transformers movies, it would be a shame for him to be buried in this franchise for the rest of his career. I hope he just stops, but really, I wouldn't be surprised if he kept going. T, I'm very curious. What line of the Transformers divide do you fall on?
Well, I mean, to put it lightly, I'm not a fan of this franchise, so I kind of don't care what he does. But I agree with so much of what you guys are saying. I think it's highly unlikely that this will be his last one. The cynical approach would be to say, okay, he's negotiating in the press. He wants more money. He wants a bigger cut. He wants this. He wants that. And the even more cynical view would be that, okay, he'll step off for one movie, then someone else will direct, it won't do as well, and then he'll come back to save the franchise and get it back on track. So, I mean, that's really long-term thinking, and I don't think that Michael Bay has that kind of foresight, but that kind of thing does sometimes happen with these franchises. And I think, the real thing here is he just finished doing it, and he's just like, I'm never doing that again. I don't think it's realistic. I think he's going to pull a Jay-Z and come out of retirement in no time at all.
Well, you do pose a really interesting question that I'm going to pitch to you, David. If we get another Transformers movie and it's not directed by Michael Bay, is it Michael Bay's name more so than the Transformers brand that is making these things such a big hit?
I think it's a little bit of both. But I think I'm going to go with his name. Because they don't shy away. With M. Night Shyamalan, he kind of had a couple rough movies there. And then when they would introduce some of his new films, you don't see from the director of. They didn't say anything. You would see it if you look closely in the credits at the end, but they wouldn't say anything. It's from little fine print. With Michael Bay, when you go see a Transformers trailer, it is in the forefront. I mean, it's there. It is by Michael Bay. People understand that this is his brand. Those long shots, the low angle shot, the heroes just looking up at something. I mean, that's his thing, the whole Armageddon thing. And I think he's such a big brand that I think he can demand more money. He's like a LeBron James in the director world. People love working with him because, one, I've always heard he comes under budget. He's in on time. You don't hear a lot of drama on set with Michael Bay for the most part. I mean, unlike a Josh Trank, Michael Bay knows how to play ball with the big studios and get the job done on time. That's a top performer. That's a guy who deserves top money, just like a top athlete. So I don't mind that he's playing a little hardball right now.
And he creates loyalty with his actors. Yeah. Anthony Hopkins was on one of the talk shows last night, and he said he's one of the greatest filmmakers he's ever worked with. Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he doesn't have to say that.
No, he doesn't need money. Anthony Hopkins isn't worried about his career.
No,
he doesn't need money.
He's a sir. He doesn't have to say anything. But he says that.
I don't mean to dig in deeper, but wouldn't it be really nice if we heard all these lovely stories and then got a great movie out of it, though? It would be the complete package.
You know what I think about Wahlberg? Again, Wahlberg, another guy who doesn't really need more money or need this franchise to survive. I know he has 4 kids. So, that could be his kids watching the movie. Yeah. That's why he's so behind it. He was like, oh, Daddy, you're in Transformers. That's awesome. You always hear that with dads being like, oh, I want to make some movies for my kids. And,
All right. Yeah. Well, no more Transformers
for
today.
Done with that.
All right, let's get another story. Wendy, what's next?
According to a report from Deadline, Amblin Entertainment and Mythology Entertainment have set Eli Roth to direct and Jack Black to star in The House with a Clock in Its Walls, an adaptation of the 1973 John Bel Air's book. Eric Kripke, who wrote the script, tells the tale of a recently orphaned 10-year-old boy who discovers a world of hidden passages, magic and danger in his uncle's old house. The boy then discovered a clock inside the walls that is designed to bring about doomsday. A release date has not been determined. T, what do you think about Eli Roth directing Jack Black in The House with a Clock in its Walls?
I'm very intrigued by this because Eli Roth doing a kids movie is a real head scratcher, but I'd be curious to see what he does with it. You know, he's definitely nailed down his sort of approach to the horror genre and, you know, torture porn and all that stuff. But yeah, I think him doing this is definitely an interesting move, and I'm curious to see what happens. I guess basically since Jordan Peele moved from comedy to doing a, you know, social thriller, I feel like anything is possible. And as far as Jack Black playing the crazy uncle, I'm definitely curious to see that as well.
He's definitely perfect for that kind of role too, especially if you've seen Goosebumps. D. Griff, how you feeling about the story?
I like Jack Black, and you know Eli Roth. I'm not a big fan of the Hostel franchise and the kind of the torture porn stuff, but I liked him as in Inglourious Basterds. You know, I think he's a fun actor to watch. He seems like a nice guy, but I'm really excited. I do love Jack Black. Jack Black always makes me. I'm a big fan of Tenacious D. You know, the band that he has. I mean, I know King Kong gets a lot of bad press, but I actually enjoyed King Kong. He was goofy and silly, but he's just a funny guy. It makes you laugh, you know. And I know he has a family, again, doing things for your kids. You know, it's good to see that he's going to do a children's movie. Maybe Eli Roth, his kind of twisted sense of humor and his graphic violence that he loves, that'd be interesting to see what he does with all that energy that he has and puts it towards a kid's film. I'm definitely on board with
I
this.
think it's about time he gives something like this a shot, because I just have Green Inferno fresh in my mind, and I think that movie has a really hard time getting off the ground in the beginning. Just he's not as good with that with setup and drama and conversations. Then when he gets to the blood and guts, that movie takes off. So that being said, it makes me a little nervous being forced in a place where he can't rely on all that gore, which is, I mean, that's kind of the shining star of a lot of his movies. And I love his movies. I have a lot of fun with them. But when you take that out, I wonder what he's capable of. And, you know, maybe he just needs something to test him. I'm shocked that I've never read these books. This sounds like something that I would have loved as a kid. And it sounds like something that could be, you know, like a gothic movie for kids. When do we really get that kind of stuff? I mean, it does sound like it could have almost like a Guillermo del Toro twist to it. You know, when I first read this, not that the stories are all that similar, but the tone almost reminded me a little of Troll Hunters.
Yeah,
I know
I
you're
love
watching
Troll
Troll
Hunters,
Hunters. So if it had that kind of playful, but the stakes are super high and anything can happen to any of the characters vibe, I'd be really into it. What do you think, Rocha?
Yeah, this is an interesting story. You're right, Perry. What you said about a gothic story aimed at kids doesn't usually happen. Now, I read these books as a kid, and I'm old enough to remember seeing the 1979 Vincent Price-hosted version of this on CBS.
Wow.
They did, yeah. That's how old I am, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I used to watch. Now, when I got older, I kind of moved away from horror because I liked being scared, but only the really, really good ones, right? So, but I used to watch all this stuff as a kid because you want to explore and be scared and stuff. So and Vincent Price, when I was growing up, was someone that you connected to with horror, which is why he does the voiceover in Thriller for Michael Jackson. Like, it just makes sense at that time on the Thriller album. And so when I watched this, I remember this story because it was part of a 3-story TV show that they did for one night. And it was the last 15 minutes of the show. So it's on YouTube. If you want to go watch the whole episode, it's on YouTube. And so when I heard this, I was like, oh, wow, that's right. Like, it was just like blowing a lot of dust off an old memory. So it was like great to see that this is happening. And it's an interesting combination with Eli Roth. You're right. I don't know. This is weird. I don't know how to make this analogy correct, but this is like someone directing like really like terribly unsettling movies all of a sudden going, let's do a kids film. And it's just like, what are you going to get out of this? And Jack Black showed that he has legs in this particular area of this genre with Goosebumps. Goosebumps made $150 million. It's 77% on Rotten Tomatoes. So it was received well. So this whole thing of kids kind of horror, I think he might have found a second life in this area for his career, because we don't see him headlining a lot of movies anymore and doing stuff, or even appearing as an ensemble actor in a lot of these movies. So maybe he's finding these places in these areas to kind of speak his voice now as an actor and with his craft. And Eli Roth bringing him in is interesting. It's going to be dark enough, so that's why you bring a guy like that in. But Jack Black's going to level it out with the comedy, and it's an interesting combination.
I'm surprised they didn't make this a TV series. Because
Yeah,
it seems
'cause
like
there's
they
12
have.
books.
There's
Well,
like
also
14
too.
books.
Yeah.
14 books.
Yeah, and plus it's because we have like Lemony Snicket's on Netflix right now.
Yeah.
Plus it's Eric Kripke from Supernatural
Yeah.
Revolution. He's a big TV
Yeah.
writer, so it's interesting they went.
What are you
right to
just
him.
trying to steal it for TV talk? Is
We
that
got-
what's happening
Yeah,
here?
that'd be a good story for Monday's TV talk. We have
Dave
new
is on the
game. We have
show.
Game
You
of
knew you were
Thrones.
gonna get a
Yeah.
TV talk, bitch.
I know. Got to do it. Got to do it.
All right, let's move on over to buy or sell, the time of the show when we get to say whether we buy or sell a particular story. So, Wendy, what is our first one?
According to Deadline, Neve Campbell has signed on to co-star with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in Universal Pictures and Legendary's Skyscraper. In the movie, Johnson plays U.S. war veteran Will Ford, who now assesses security for skyscrapers. On assignment in China, he finds the tallest, safest building in the world suddenly ablaze, and he's been framed for it. As a wanted man on the run, Will must find those responsible and somehow rescue his family, who is trapped inside the building above the fire line. The film will reteam Johnson with its Central Intelligence Director Ross and Marshall Thurber, with a release date set for July 13th, 2018. David, buy or sell Neve Campbell joining The Rock in Skyscraper?
Yeah, I'll buy it. I have nothing against Neve Campbell. She's in the season of House of Cards right now. Yeah, she's still working. I think she was in Mad Men for a time. She's doing a lot of television. I don't follow her career closely, but I buy it when The Rock is attached to it just because I love his personality. He's one of the most charismatic actors. I still remember that iconic scene. With him and Arnold Schwarzenegger crossing paths in the bar,
in the rundown.
like in the rundown, and he would say like good luck,
good luck,
kind of giving him the mantle of being the biggest action star in the world, and that's who he is right now. He's one of the biggest actors in the world. So I buy The Rock attached to this. There's a skyscraper in China. It's ablaze. He's framed for it. He's on the run. I buy it. I'll see it. Neve Campbell does. I guess I don't know. I guess I'm in between. I guess I'll buy it because of The Rock. But if it was just Neve Campbell on her own, I don't know if I would buy it. But no offense to Neve Campbell. I have nothing against Neve Campbell.
So, Rocha, yay or nay for Neve Campbell?
Sorry, Neve. Sorry.
I'm completely 180 from David. I'm a massive fan of Neve Campbell, and she's one of these.
What you
actors-
watching her in? What's the last thing you've seen her in?
Well, The Company I saw the other night again. She's
Okay.
fantastic in that. And if you've ever seen Panic with her and William H. Macy, never push David. I know Neve Campbell, and I love her. No. She's one of these actors that came out in the 90s. We had like Sarah Michelle Gellar. We had Jennifer Love Hewitt. She was one of these actors from that group of. But
Wild
I thought-
Things.
Yeah, Wild Things. Yeah, but I thought Neve had legitimate chops. I always felt she was a legitimate actress,
Right.
as opposed to just a teen actress getting by on her looks or getting by on people liking her or whatever. Neve actually has credibility, and you've seen the choices she's made. She moves towards independent films. Yeah, she did the Scream movies and whatever, but like she likes to go towards independent movies. And like I mentioned, Panic, The Company. She also has done a lot of work on the West End in London on stage, doing a lot of plays through that. So she hones her craft. She's a good actress. To me, this fills the Carla Gugino role that The Rock and Dwayne Johnson, who I interviewed once upon a time, likes to have on his films. He likes to have that woman that's just a little bit younger than him, but can like go toe to toe with him and run with him. So I think this is a great choice personally, and this is a nice cast that it's rounding out to be. With director who I saw Central Intelligence again a couple of weeks ago. That film is so good, and Ross and Marshall Thurber does such a great job with it that I am looking forward to this. And this is all. It feels very reminiscent of that '70s disaster movies like Towering Inferno and Poseidon Adventure.
Earthquake.
Right?
Yeah.
That Charlton Heston. It's got that vibe. So to me, this excites me, and I love Neve to pieces. So I'm glad she's getting an opportunity to kind of step forward, because you're right. She's been kicking ass on House of Cards. So
Yeah.
why not give her some more feature film roles?
Well, I don't watch House of Cards, but I do have a certain favorite movie. So guess how I feel about Neve Campbell. I freaking love this story. I'm really excited for her, too, because I don't watch House of Cards, and I have not seen her appearances in... She has a whole bunch of TV shows that she's appeared on recently.
Yeah, Manhattan.
I haven't watched that. Yeah, Manhattan, too. I'm slightly aware of that.
Yeah.
House of Cards I won't watch because the dog died in the first episode. That's actually not really the reason, but I just haven't gotten around to watching the
Reason
whole
enough for me.
thing.
Thanks for the heads up.
But I'm really excited for her because obviously I'm obsessed with Scream. I'm obsessed with all those movies. I've seen other movies she's in, obviously, but I would say her movie star career has hit a bit of a lull, and starring in a big action movie alongside The Rock. And it's not like we're in a situation where The Rock in this movie has already been surrounded by a bunch of other familiar faces. She is the second person cast in this movie. This is a Rock with Neve Campbell movie. That could wind up being a big deal for her, especially if this winds up being big like San Andreas or Central Intelligence. Can't really compare Neve Campbell to Kevin Hart because those two are kind of like, no, I'm talking about like name value.
Yeah,
They
sure,
were
of course.
almost on equal playing field together, but this is something that could give her a nice little boost, and I kind of want to see her have more big screen opportunities. So We know you won't watch House of Cards now. I'm sorry I ruined all that for you. But will,
No,
you,
you
watch,
saved me.
will you watch Skyscraper with Neve Campbell?
Well, I have mostly or largely positive feelings about Neve Campbell as well. I really enjoyed her in the Scream films, but she's had one of those careers where I kind of forget about her. So whenever she comes up, I'm like, oh yeah, her. So I think this could be a nice shot in the arm for her movie career and sort of kind of give her more opportunities on the larger screen because, as you said, she's done mostly TV stuff in recent years. But I do think that she's, a lovely actress, a competent, well-trained actress, whatever you want to call it. So I think it will be an interesting match with her and The Rock. That's just kind of an odd pairing to me, but perhaps it'll work out. I feel like if they cast her, then they must have had good chemistry, in a read or something. So we'll see how it plays out. And in terms of the actual premise of the film, it sounds a little silly to me. And even before I read the credits, I was just like, so this is San Andreas, but it's a fire this time.
Right.
And it is the same writer-director. So there we are. But, I do enjoy a good disaster film. So maybe it will actually work out. We'll see.
And he's shown loyalty to these actresses that come on to his films. Like Daddario was in Baywatch, and Carla Gugino's been in a couple of films with him. So this could be a second life for Neve.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me. All right, so now we got 2 trailers coming up. Wendy, what's the first one?
Lionsgate and Roadside Attractions have released the first trailer for the true story drama Stronger. Directed by Pineapple Express's David Gordon Green, the film stars Jake Gyllenhaal as Jeff Bowman, an ordinary man who becomes a symbol of heroism and strength after losing both of his legs during the tragic 2013 Boston Marathon bombing. Unlike the Mark Wahlberg film Patriots Day, Stronger is mostly focused on what happened after the bombing and how the event affected Bowman and his ex-girlfriend Erin, played by Tatiana Maslany, who was running the marathon at the time. The film also stars Miranda Richardson and opens in theaters on September 22nd. Perri, buy or sell the first trailer for Stronger?
I am going to buy this big time. When the 2 Boston Marathon bombing movies were first announced, my reactions were, 1, it feels like it's too soon, and 2, do we really need 2 movies about that topic? And, Patriots Day came out, and it proved me wrong big time. I really like that movie, and it's not an easy watch by any means, but I think it was done in a way where it justifies telling that story on the big screen, showing what particular people went through, and resharing that story as a way to inspire people and show that everybody can overcome even the most terrible things. This looks to do the same thing, but in a completely different way. So I think we have a world where both of these movies can exist, and it's really exciting. This movie is slated to come out September 22nd. You know what that sounds like? That sounds like award potential. Yeah. And for someone like Jake Gyllenhaal, let's go. I'm still bitter about no nomination for Nightcrawler. So if this is great, I hope he gets it. And I'm also, as you guys know, a huge Orphan Black fan. I am waiting for Tatiana Maslany to become a big movie star. So given what I saw from her performance in this trailer, and really from both of them, I think this could be the right combination to actually get them some recognition. And David Gordon Green, too. He's got a great resume. I like a lot of his movies, Pineapple Express, just to name drop one. But this is something different. And also Vice Principals. I'm giving you a TV talk thing.
HBO, yeah.
Isn't Vice Principals a lot of fun? But with this, I mean, it's one of those things. It's kind of like what we were talking about Neve Campbell. It could change the trajectory of his career, put him on another level. This seems like a really powerful piece, and I can't wait to see more of it. Rocha, what do you think about this one?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely buy this. Patriots Day was a good movie. It's kind of like the United 93 of this particular situation in American history. But this is something else. This is almost like the Titanic of that we're following this tragedy through this couple's eyes, right? I'm not saying it's that same kind of level of quality, but like it is this. And I like that it's a smaller film and it feels got an independent vibe. And David Gordon Green, yes, Vice Principals, but he hasn't had a real hit since Pineapple Express. His last few films have not done well in the box office, but he must have some clout or some real faith from executives to hand them this kind of film. And Jake, listen, Jake is doing something really extraordinary as an actor. This is a lead actor that should be in multiple franchises, but Jake is going the smaller film route. He is developing such a fan base, a rabid fan base for his talent, for his abilities, and for his decision making on the films he chooses to do. Source Code, what we saw, what you just mentioned, Nightcrawler, Southpaw. These are smaller films that are not going to get like $500 million at the box office, but they give him a showcase for him to really explore how deep he is as an actor, right? And Tatiana Maslany, I have been banging this drum since the first season of Orphan Black. I'm super upset that she still has yet to land a Star Wars lead film because they always bring her up. And I know Rogue One would, and I love Rogue One, would have been even more kick-ass with her as Jyn Erso. She would have explored the complexity and the depth of that character even more so. And Felicity Jones did a nice job, but I think Tatiana would have killed that part. And it's a crime that she isn't doing more. It's a crime that she isn't lead because she is a powerful, powerful actress. And so you can't take your eyes off her, and she is so malleable. It's not a lot of actors that can do 15 different roles on one show and make you forget that it's the same person in the scene acting against themselves. It's amazing.
All right, so T, we've only seen this trailer now,
Yes.
but based on what you see in this, do you think that there is awards potential for this movie?
Absolutely. I think, they sat on this movie largely because it's been in the can for a while, but I think because of the release date of Patriots Day, they decided to hold it because they didn't want to have a whole Saving Private Ryan Thin Red Line situation. So, I think Jake Gyllenhaal, similar to what we were saying earlier about like Star Wars and the MCU as brands, for me, Jake Gyllenhaal is a brand. And basically anything he does, I will watch because his talent will get my ass in the seat. And the trailer looks great. It definitely has that sort of like cadence and vibe of an Oscar movie, but I feel like it'll actually deliver. So I'm excited for this one for sure.
D. Griff, tell me what you think.
I'm in. I'm buying this, and I like that Jake hasn't taken that side of going into the big blockbuster world. He doesn't need to. I mean, even people that you think are big movie stars, like look at DiCaprio. Yeah, he's in successful movies, but he's not outside of Titanic. Not in $800 million movies. Like that's not what he does. He's a movie star character actor. I think Gyllenhaal, maybe he's not making his movies make as much maybe as Leo's films, but he's a movie star character actor. Clive Owen was supposed to be James Bond. He didn't want to do that. He likes doing small roles. He wanted to be in like the Nick on Cinemax, and he wanted to do Children for Men. Yeah, I mean those guys, they look like movie stars because they're really good-looking men. But like I like doing character roles. I don't want to be James Bond. I don't want to be a lead like that. So I like that Gyllenhaal's doing that. So I'll buy that. He's just such a powerful, quirky. He's just an odd guy. He can go from playing Nightcrawler, lose all that weight, his face just shrinks in, and then he gets all jacked for Southpaw.
Yeah. He's
fantastic. So I'm definitely buying this because Jake Gyllenhaal.
And I think it's a relatable story. This is a guy who doesn't want to be a hero. It seems from the trailer that he's kind of letting his girlfriend down. Finally shows up to something, gets his legs blown off, and now he gets thrown into to being a hero. And a lot of us would have a really hard time making that transition as human beings in this world. So I think it's going to be connectable for a lot of people.
All right, Wendy, let's get that second trailer.
Universal Pictures and DreamWorks Pictures have released the first trailer for Thank You for Your Service, the military drama starring Miles Teller. The film follows a group of U.S. soldiers returning from Iraq who struggle to integrate back to family and civilian life while living with the memory of a war that threatens to destroy them long after they've left the battlefield. The movie features an ensemble cast led by Miles Teller that also includes Haley Bennett and Amy Schumer. American Sniper screenwriter Jason Hall wrote the screenplay and makes his directorial debut, with the movie set for release on October 27th. Rocha, buy or sell the first trailer for Thank You for Your Service?
I couldn't buy this more. This is a really emotional trailer for me, having served for 8 years in the military and the Army, and also having had my own battles with mental health and depression. Like this trailer really kind of like checked all the boxes for me and hit all the emotional buttons for me. And I found myself like crying almost at the end of the trailer because we've seen films that explore PTSD. American Sniper did that, which Jason wrote. This is his directorial debut. We see this in Hurt Locker. We've seen this ever since like Vietnam, Coming Home, The Deer Hunter. We see this multiple times throughout the history of our country about PTSD. Even going back to World War I, there were films in World War II. There were films that came out later that explored that in a smaller way. So this is nothing new, but what I think is new is they're exploring how powerful the desire for suicide is in these veterans. I was looking up statistics here, and it says an average of 20 veterans died from suicide each day. And that's in 2014 they were doing that. The highest spike they had was in 2012. 29% of people coming back from the service killed themselves. And that is powerful. And a majority of the people with suicides in the military are people who aren't even deployed. So that lets you know that this is a powerful thing to have within yourself, because they get you at a young age. That's why they do it, so they can get your mind while it's still forming, train you to fight, train you to go overseas and deal with this stuff. But no matter how much training they do, it's like they say, practice ain't the game. Once you're in the game, it's a whole nother concept. And what I like about this film is that they're showing two stories, not just Miles' story, but his friend's story. and it's just really powerful. And it's so I'm happy that this is finally something in 2017 that we are going to talk about and showcase and highlight. And I think Jason, from the trailer I see here, is really going to do it justice. And there's a lot of movements, a lot of organizations that are out now to help veterans do this. So I'm glad they're putting a highlight on this once and for all. You know.
David, what do you think about this trailer?
I buy it. I think it's like Rocha said, there's no easy way to talk about it or sugarcoat it. I mean, my roommate of a few years back was a special ops Marine sniper, and he was sent over right after 9/11. I remember I watched The Hurt Locker with him, and there was a few times he said, David, you know, can you pause it? And he'd get up and he'd go to his room for 5-10 minutes. He'd come back and sit down, and we started up again. I had to pause about 3 or 4 times. I mean, you have these young men going over, and, you know, we talk about, like, war and all this death stuff, and none of us really know what it's like, except unless you're over there serving. These guys have to come and kill, and they have to come back home and buy Cheerios. You know, it's like, what does that look like? What does that do to somebody? I don't know what that does. I've never experienced it. And I think it's something that needs to be told. It's not easy to watch, but it's an important story. So I'm glad that they're doing that in this film. Yeah.
I'm really curious to see how it comes across in the final film too, because this was a really unique trailer. I mean, because you know, you read those stats and you see certain things play out on screen in, you know, quiet, dramatic moments, and it's a punch to the gut. It's hard to watch, and then they put the song "Human" in the background of this, and oddly enough, I feel like it accomplishes 2 things where that song is so perfectly chosen, where the words reflect the hardship that you see in the trailer, but at the same time, it's a catchy alt-rock song to a point, so it gives the film a really unique energy where I actually think there was no better way to sell such a horrific concept and such an upsetting concept, but do it in a way that actually accomplishes getting people to want to see more. So that is something from that marketing campaign, and this could be a great showcase. Yet again, three things that we had brought this up about today for Miles Teller, and it's got a great ensemble too. We see a little bit of Haley Bennett. I think Amy Schumer's in it. Joel Cole, who I know from Green Room. I'm really excited to see him in this. Scott Hayes, who we haven't seen in a really long time, or at least I haven't on the big screen. So this is a great group. This seems like a really unique approach. I'm just very curious to see how it goes from how it's presented in the trailer to the final feature. T, how do you feel about this one?
I am completely buying this trailer along with you guys. I think the interesting thing about this is similar to the Jake Gyllenhaal movie, where that one is sort of exploring less so the day of the incident, but more the aftermath and dealing with life afterward. This is dealing with the life of soldiers who come home a little bit more than, say, The Hurt Locker or American Sniper, because in The Hurt Locker, you know, we see him come home and then he kind of goes back, and it's more focused on actual, you know, wartime, you know, getting through everything. And this is more the what you have to deal with when you come back home. So I think that it's about time that a movie actually delved into this. And the cast itself is really, really interesting to me, because Miles Teller, similar to Gyllenhaal again, is making a lot of really interesting and unique career choices. Basically, since Whiplash, I've been keeping my eye on him because he's making a lot of choices that you wouldn't necessarily expect. I also really enjoyed War Dogs. So, and he did, I forget the boxing movie he did. So he's
Bleed for this.
Stonehands?
for this.
Yeah.
Yeah, and isn't all those like Insurgent or what are the movies? Insurgent, the
Divergent
Divergent,
movie?
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I was like,
boy.
Insurgent, yeah, it was Divergent.
Yeah,
movies.
but for the most part, he stayed away from these sort of tentpole blockbuster films, and he's focusing on the craft. So that, and then along with Amy Schumer, which is a little bit of an odd name to see in this lineup, especially with this subject matter, is very interesting to me. And I think both the subject matter and the casting, that's enough for me. Like, I really can't wait to see this.
All right, I got no appropriate transition, so I'm just going to tell you right now that that's the end of Buy or Sell. At the end of the show, we're going to take a few of your live Twitter questions, so start sending those over to the Collider Video Twitter account. Right now, we're doing some plugs, though, for some of the stuff that you can watch on the channel. Right now, there's a brand new episode of Jedi Council that dropped yesterday. Check that out if you want to hear more about the Han Solo story in particular. And then also, really exciting, we have Comic Book Shopping, a new show that's going to drop today with John Schnepp and also with Evan Goldberg. You're going to have to check that out. It's so exciting that we have this coming your way. And also, Preacher. Preacher is coming back. It's coming back to AMC. I loved the first season. The promo promos for the second season have looked freaking amazing. I'm so excited. It's got a 2-night premiere event that was very casual, Rocha. Nobody saw that. It's a 2-night premiere, though, for Preacher that I know I'm going to watch, and it starts on Sunday the 25th, and then it's Monday the 26th, so check that out. As always, we have a brand new Awesome-tacular coming your way today, so you can find the link to that in the description section of Movie Talk. What else we got? Oh, this thing that Rocha just shoved in my face. Rocha, what is that?
Yeah, this is a giveaway that we're doing here. We talked about it yesterday on Collide Moved. This is a heavy box, so I'm going to do my best here. It's for Transformers, the new RPG game that's out now from Kabam. It's called Forged to Fight. So we are giving away this to one lucky viewer. Look at there it is, Transformers Forged to Fight. A lot of the Generation 1 characters in there, a lot of characters from the Transformers movies. Now you can play. So what you get in here, now let's take a look. Look, I'm going to do my best QVC thing here, so pay attention. You get a Google Pixel phone, right? And then you get this awesome case inside, and in the back you can press the button from behind and it starts the game on your phone. And you can set it to start any app, so the button isn't just for the game, it's for any app. You could open the Collider video app if you want to watch our shows, and then there's also this awesome gift card that comes with it. And if that isn't enough, let's open the drawer. Like I swear to God, where's the thing that says like $7.95 only? You get this amazing book of Transformers. It's a comic book that you turn into a hardback, Transformers Autocracy Trilogy, and inside, right there, Del Flint signs it, who's one of the original writers and producers and showrunners for the animated series in the 80s. And also, each one of these comes with their personal pencil sketch inside of a different Transformer or Autobot or Decepticon on there. So it's a lot you get for this giveaway. And that phone is, that Google Pixel phone, that is not a cheap phone. So this is an amazing giveaway that you can do. So what you want to do is you want to go on Twitter, tweet at Collider Video, and then use the hashtags Transformers and hashtag Forged to Fight. Can we put the graphic up again, Adam? Forged to Fight. If that's all right. There you go, Forged to Fight. So just hashtag Transformers, hashtag Forged to Fight, 2 separate hashtags. At Collider Video, and if you want to do at Google Play as well, tell them that you're into the game, and then we will give away one of these coming up soon. So there you go.
And that is not the only Transformers thing we have to plug. We also did a spoiler review in addition to our non-spoiler review. It went up today. It's with me, Rocha, and Dennis, so you can imagine there's a lot of good verbal sparring / we all still love each other but feel very differently about Transformers.
It's true.
So go watch that, and I'm not done yet. We have a new Schmodown dropping later today. I am so excited about this match because it features a Schmodown fan, Tim Franco, going up against Matt Atchity. And you know what? We got a short promo to play for you right now.
I'll tell you right now, round of applause for Late to the Party and one of the best showings we have seen here.
Like, do you realize what an impact you may be having on fans at home that are like, yeah, this could happen?
Watch them, react to them. Let be out there. Let them know that you know movies and that you love movies and that you love the Schmodown.
And when it comes down to it, just watch more movies. Enjoy them.
With that being said, Late to the Party week isn't over. We have Tim Franco going up against Matt Atchity.
So watch that match a little later today. But right now, we're moving on to our mailbag question for the day. Wendy, what do we got?
The Dark Knight writes, with Lord and Miller exiting the Han Solo movie, should WB and DC reach back out to them to direct the Flash movie? Rumors suggest that they met on it during a break from Han Solo. And if not the Flash, should they just do their own thing and make more comedies? Thanks.
So yeah, that was a news story that surfaced. And again, there's no official confirmation from the studio, so don't take it as fact. But it was presented that it was possible that Lord and Miller, during a hiatus of Han Solo, met with Warner Brothers about The Flash. And as some of you know, they were involved in earlier iterations of the movie, so I guess it kind of makes sense. But answering the question as to whether or not that should happen, I hope it doesn't. And again, I don't want to start speculating even more about Han Solo and who's right and who's wrong and who's feeling butthurt and who should feel that way right now. But, you know, when you go through something like this, maybe it's best not to jump into another big franchise, especially a movie that has had a significant amount of delays. Lord and Miller clearly are very into their style. They have a very specific style of filmmaking. They like to work a certain way. I'm not saying that can't work for The Flash. It totally could, but you know, I wouldn't mind seeing them take a step back now after all this and kind of cleanse themselves with something that could be solely theirs and something that lets them kind of do their thing to the max. If just from my perspective, if I had gone through something like I suspect they went through with Han Solo, I'd want to just, you know, go for it and do my thing right after. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, definitely. Do it. I want them to do it because they've already shown with the Lego movie that they understand how the DC characters work and how to find the humor in the characters while still respecting them, what I call galaxy questing the characters. And so to me, I think they're absolutely perfect to do The Flash, especially because we're supposed to be putting more fun into the DCE universe. So that makes sense to me.
So David, Flash or something else?
I think something else. I mean, right now you have Jeff Johns and now Joss Whedon kind of coming in and kind of taking over this new look of the DC universe, and they like Marvel, they want everything to kind of feel like it's a part of the same world. Wonder Woman was lighthearted at times, also very serious, talking about World War I. There was some dark moments in that movie. So I'd like to see. I don't think that would be a good place for them. Like I don't know if all that banter and improvisation like that is going to work in the DCU. So maybe go do something else. Go do their own project where they can, like you said, Perri, just let loose.
T, do you think this could possibly happen, and do you want it to happen?
I don't know that it will happen unless we're talking about a Lego Flash movie, and I don't particularly want it to happen. I don't particularly want it to happen simply because I do feel like they should go off and do their own thing. I think it'll make them happier than kind of being handcuffed to any particular franchise or studio's brand per se. And even if DC is trying to infuse more comedy and be more Marvel-like, for lack of a better phrase, I don't think that's something that can happen in one movie. I think it's something that needs to happen gradually and that they need to do in their own way.
And just to clarify, that report where this story kind of came from, it's a rap report, and they also say that Robert Zemeckis is still the front runner. Again, nothing's been confirmed by the studio, but just so you have all the facts that have been out there, that's the situation right now. That's it for Mailbag. If you want your question answered here on Movie Talk or maybe on one of our weekend Mailbag shows, it's super easy. Send your question on over to collidervideo@gmail.com, and maybe we will talk about it. But right now, I think we got time for what, Wendy? One Twitter question?
Just one.
Okay.
All right, and this one comes from Lawrence Itella, who writes, Logan Lucky and The Hitman's Bodyguard opens on the same weekend. Seems like they target the same audience, so should one move off the date?
That's interesting. I haven't really looked into what else. What's the date?
I'm going to look it up right
mention
now.
It? Yeah, that is the name of the game. So I imagine one will move.
Is a Soderbergh audience transferring over to a Ryan Reynolds? Like, I don't know if that's necessarily the same audience. I don't think. Like, Logan Lucky looks very funny, and it looks like kind of one of those like Southern type of comedies that Soderbergh is trying to play with. But I don't know necessarily that it's the same as The Hitman's Bodyguard, which seems more of a broader type approach, a broader type comedy, a stupid type comedy, as opposed to something that seems a little more layered and complex. Because Soderbergh always directs films that are a little more, there's more to them than just comedy. And Hitman's Bodyguard looks like a, kind of run-of-the-mill Ryan Reynolds type of vehicle with Sam Jackson coming aboard. So,
What do you think, David?
Yeah, I think they're two different styles. I think they're going to attract two different audiences. I don't think people are going to be like, hey, should we see one or the other? Yeah, I don't think that's going to be a problem, that week. I mean, is it going up against anything big? Do you see the date, Perri?
I see the date. So they both come out on August 18th. And the other things that are scheduled, they're the only two wide releases. They're but that's the thing. They're the only two wide releases. So it seems strange that even though they seem like they're tonally very different when you have any kind of crossover. And, when you just think about broad genre, like action versus action, whether it's comedy action or whatever you're going to call it, it does seem a little strange that we have two wide releases and they're both somewhat similar there. I don't know. If you had to pick between the two, which one are you seeing?
Probably Logan Lucky. I think, I agree with you. Even if we're looking at the more nuanced differences between the two, I don't know if the average moviegoer necessarily would. I feel like if both movies are being filed on the same shelf at Blockbuster, we still have those, right? Blockbuster. If they're going to be in the same section at Blockbuster, I feel like they probably should move one of them, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so that's it. That's all we have the time for on today's Movie Talk. Sadly, I want to take all your Twitter questions, but there's always next week. So before we close this one out, I want to thank the guys in the back. Adam, Cody, thank you guys so much. And also everybody around the table here. T, where can everybody find you on the interwebs?
You guys can find me on my personal channel, which is called Nappy Headed Jojoba, if you want some tips on caring for your Afro-textured hair.
Ooh, yes.
Other than that, if you want more
need some of
movie
that.
talk, I'm always on Cinefix, which is also right here on YouTube.
And Rocha.
Girl, I need to get on that channel.
Yeah.
Listen, you guys can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram, ROCHA. I just dropped a new episode of Outlaw Nation podcast yesterday on the SK Plus podcast channel. And today we dropped a new episode of the Cine-Files, Cinefiles on iTunes, Stitcher, and YouTube. We talk about 3 Days of the Condor, the Robert Redford CIA 70s film. So a lot of fun on that one.
King of the Undies, D. Griff.
King of the Undies. When I'm not selling underwear, you can find me at Griffin DE on Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out Collider TV Talk on Monday. We're going to talk about Preacher season premiere, part 1, because it's a 2-parter, and also the new Game of Thrones trailer. We got the Fargo finale this week, Better Call Saul finale to talk about. So much to talk about on Monday's show.
And Wendy over there.
On YouTube at the Movie Couple channel and at Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat.
And you guys can catch me on Twitter and Instagram at Perri Nemiroff. And you know what's coming tomorrow? It's Collider Behind the Scenes and Bloopers, 2 p.m. PST. You got a whole episode about Collider pets coming your way. And surprise, surprise, it is super cute and fun. So go watch that. Thank you guys so much for watching this show. We will see you Monday morning.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.